Ready to go when you are. Was
I'm-
that an audio test?
Yeah,
All right, just making sure you hear everybody or
Mhm.
hear everything. We good to go?
we're good to go.
All right.
Can
What's
you hear
up?
me just fine?
I can hear you. I can hear you. We think we're good. What's up,
Okay.
everybody? Welcome again to the debrief. So, episode 2 here. Gonna try and stay as consistent as we can with it. Bolt doesn't have a ton of time today for this recording. He's got a busy schedule, but we'll try and get in
Being a
on
busy
some.
man.
Yeah. We'll try and get some what's the word I'm looking for here? Timely topic.
Some more focused, yeah. Condensed.
Yeah. Trending. I don't know. I think trending might be the word I was looking for because this
Poggers, as the
week,
kids say.
poggers. Yeah, it could be that. This week we should be seeing the U.S. the fifth U.S. spec, which should be Special Forces. So wanted to talk about that a little bit. See, think about what we may or may not seen, or may not see. But I think a good way to start is Bolt. What do you think we should see? What do you hope is in there?
I'm expecting a lot of focus on infantry and recon, with some good spec ops you can drop behind them. But honestly, apart from that, I don't really know too much. I was thinking maybe like more reconnaissance units in the air, but we already have the best. We have the Global Hawks and all that, so I don't think we need anything else there. I'm thinking it's mostly infantry focused with a emphasis on maybe airdropping units.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely going to be
yeah.
infantry heavy.
But I don't know what else I would be able to expect from it,
Well, of course, there's the Raptor. We got some big air power. We got some big air power. So
some more stealth.
100%. I am going to pray that this brings the U.S. air tab across all specs, the U.S. air tab, up to where it really should be. So the only things, one of which is confirmed now with the Raptor, the only things I hope are in there are some significant air power.
Right.
And
like air to air?
100% air to air, but for sure air to ground. And there's so many little niche topics that can come up with this stuff. It could be like how effective is the seed capabilities? How effective are the air to air capabilities? And this is something that I posted and I talked about with the Raptor post that we saw over on the Patreon. Is I'm pretty sure they're going to add the JATM, the JATM, which is the AIM 260.
Oh shit!
Where we have
cool.
I think that's what they're going to be doing, because there was a bit of text in the Patreon post. Which, while we're on the subject, massive plug to the Steel Ball Like a Patreon, because that's pretty much the only place that they're really talking about anything. So any of you guys listening right now, if you've got an extra $1 a month, literally $1 a month, you can go join their Patreon and you can see a ton of stuff, some of which is really old that we'll be talking about a little bit later. But there's been some posts that I haven't talked about because I'm going to try and be as fair as possible in terms of timing. It is only $1 a month. If you're a true fan of the game, you should be able to do that. You haven't spent any money on the game, I think you should go join their Patreon. But okay, if you are over there, sure, you get a little bit of extra time to talk about the stuff that's over on the Patreon before the rest of the world sees it, quote unquote, the rest of the world. Anyway, I digress though. They talked about the Raptor, and they said that its expertise is going to be long and medium range, when before, like years ago, I think it was 2022, the post about the Raptor that was up there said medium and short range. Right. And then it specifically said AMRAAM, Sidewinder, and then it even said JDAMs. It even said air to ground for the Raptor. So with this new one where it's saying long and medium range, guess what? The Sidewinder ain't medium. So what else is out there? The AMRAAM is most definitely medium.
Yeah.
And where they're adding
the AIM 174, which is more longer range.
Correct. Yes. They've got the AIM 174, but that would not fit in a Raptor. This JATM, if you go and you check out the research on it, which I'm being surprised with new stuff like this all the time.
Yeah, I'm seeing a picture with an F-22 loaded up with them.
100%. It's for that, and I believe it's also for the F-35 as well as the F-15EX. So we'll see if they end up adding that. I'm pretty sure that they will add that, because it just makes sense. We've got the AIM-174. Russia's got R-37s on practically everything with wings. So
pretty much.
Yeah, that needs to come into the game to even that out a bit. So hopefully we get the Jatum. That would be big. So that's really it. So we got the Jatum, or hopefully we get the Jatum. We've got the Raptor, and I'm fingers crossed we'll get one of the other F-35s, because the only F-35 that we have right now is the Marine version, which is the what's the word where it can go? It's like a VTOL. So it can do the VTOL, but then there's also the short takeoff landing, which isn't VTOL. So that's like the B or C or whatever, whichever one's not in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the one that is for full length runways, which I think is the A, and that's the Air Force version.
I'm checking it right now, yeah.
Yeah. I think. Well, here I am. I've got all the units in front of me, but
so we got CTOL, STOVL, and CV. Which one is the A? Okay, there we go.
A is probably the
F-35A. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably it. So B is the one we have. So B is the VTOL one.
Yeah, we got the B.
Okay, and then I guess there's probably C. C is probably the short takeoff landing, I would assume.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the reason why this is important is because the engine for the VTOL takes up so much room, you bring less with you. So the F-35 was damn good. It was a hero unit. It's what I would define as a hero unit for the previous test, but it couldn't be. It wasn't as good as it could be. So if they end up adding those other F-35s, we've got the basis that it was already good, even with less payload. But now we can bring even more stuff with it: more AMRAAMs, more Sidewanders, more air-to-ground stuff. It'd be even better. And we have the Raptor in there. I think that's going to be pretty crazy. So that's what I'm hoping.
I got a nice overview of them. So the F-35 conventional takeoff and landing. The A. The B is short takeoff vertical landing, so that's a VTOL. And then the C is the carrier variant. So when they add the ships, eventually as well, we might see the C in the naval aspect of the game. If they add more like naval gameplay, because in the demo we had the aircraft carrier and some ships.
Yeah.
If you remember that, so they might also add more emphasis on the naval aspect, because you have the F-35C there. So it's just one letter, just add it,
During the cast they did the other day where they were showing off the single player mission, I believe they said they didn't want to push naval into multiplayer because it was so slow, comparing it to what it was like in Wargame, which it was.
I get it, yeah.
It was. I mean, you either got ASM to death by air spam, or you had maybe 3 seconds of glory after taking an hour and a half to move to wherever it was going to go.
It looked cool, but I think it's more of a support role,
100%.
Like having some faster maybe response time of your planes, or the occasional Mavericks from your ships. That could be cool, but yeah.
That's a topic for another day, though. I think that generally speaking, though, it's probably going to be a scenario thing. I don't think it's going to show up in multiplayer. But hey, we can talk about the full game here. Doesn't have to just be multiplayer. I just my brain defaults to what's going in multiplayer. Speaking of, going back to main topic here, which is the U.S. Special Forces here. That's really all I hope is going to be in there, based off of like what I enjoy playing. I'm basically either super heavy stuff on ground or crazy stuff in the air. I don't do anything in between. I really don't, in terms of what I enjoy playing. And obviously with it being Special Forces, I would assume there's going to be a buttload of different kinds of infantry and stuff like that. And since we didn't see the Rangers in the Striker Brigade, there's going to be a bunch of Rangers in that Special Forces deck. There's got to be.
True.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but we didn't see Navy SEALs, right? Navy SEALs they're not anywhere, so I would assume Navy SEALs are going to pop up in there. We haven't seen Green Berets. That's literally called Special Forces, so would assume those are in there. And
I think it's definitely going to be that. Mainly infantry, spec ops, stealth with the F-22, that kind of focus.
Infantry, stealth, air. That was going to be my next question for you. So it's just like the priority with Special Forces being, it's got to be infantry, stealth, air. That's where I'm banking on it. So if there was going to be some kind of ideal deck to really show off and to really use the units in it, it's going to be that recon tab, infantry tab, air tab, maybe a bit of helicopters.
Absolutely.
Speaking of the Patreon
could have some stealth helis,
yeah,
that could be cool.
because
I think so. One thing I noticed, so way back, like the beta before the last beta, I remember it was a bit easier to like get a helicopter full of infantry behind enemies
Mhm.
because I don't know if they changed anything with stealth or optics or anything, or people just got used to protecting their flanks more. But I felt like this most recent beta, that really didn't happen that much. It was very hard to like get a heli behind them. So maybe with this Spec Ops specialization, they might have some more stealth helis or
Well, I'm
do
glad you
something
mentioned
with
it.
it, you know?
I'm glad you mentioned it because on the Patreon again, bit older. This was
Yeah.
from a few weeks ago. They did show the Ghost Hawk.
Okay,
So
that's
there
good
is the Ghost Hawk is coming. We got some artwork of that. If you look that up, are you up on the Steam?
then. Yep, I'm on Steam right now.
Yeah, if you look up the Steam, that's on there somewhere. From a few weeks ago. I've got way too
Let me
many
find it,
pictures.
yeah.
I've got way too many pictures saved, but that Ghost Hawk is up there. And also really old pick, the Comanche.
Yeah, I remember that one.
They did put the Comanche up there on the Patreon a long time ago. So your wish has been granted already. There's going to be some sneaky
That's
boys.
good.
Going to be
I
some
mean, that's the
stealth.
most enjoyable part, in my opinion. I like the infantry. I like the stealth. I like to, laser designate for the team. I
Oh
like
yeah,
to just spot everything.
especially if you've got those Raptors or F-35s above.
Yeah.
And something else that we wanted to bring up too, the AC-130.
Yeah. How's
So
the survivability of that gonna be? You'll definitely have to just whip out all the F-22s.
I mean, it's gonna be. We've both played the what's the name of that mod for Wargame? Apocalypse?
Uh,
Is it Apocalypse?
the one that Jack made or the one before?
I guess either. Oh, there's
I mean,
Ashen
there's the Ash and
Shadows,
Shadows, you
which
mean?
was the OG, and then Jax I think
Yeah.
was Apocalypse, right?
No. Man, how do we forget that? Was it Annihilation?
Annihilation. It was Annihilation.
Yeah.
Jack put in a AC-130 that actually hovered and actually shot and was a functioning AC-130. These
It was
guys are
really
gonna
good,
do
yeah.
it. Yeah, these guys are gonna do it legit. But even in that mod, it's if you're playing any competent players, it's gonna die. It's same thing with like any conventional bomber, like with the B1 or with any of the Russian counterparts there with their strategic bombers from the last test. If you're playing anybody that's competent, it's gonna die. It will.
True. Yeah.
So same thing with this. I think it's going to be a fun thing to use. I think it'll be great in scenarios for sure. It'll be a cool unit, but generally speaking, if you're playing against competent players, it's gonna die.
Yeah. Make sure you took out whatever AA you can find. You have a couple of raptors and eagles flying around. Then you whip out that thing, and even then, I think you have like 30 seconds before you get clapped after getting into contact.
Yeah, they'll just send everything at it because it will kill everything.
Yeah.
It will.
So that brings me, actually, I have a question about what do you think of countermeasures? Do you think they're fine at the moment? Like when you pop flares, it increases your survivability a little bit more.
Oh boy.
But I think the last week when we played together, I had one plane that I just microed myself, dipped up and down, weaved left and right, and just took out like 6 planes because the enemy didn't micro theirs.
So I found out a bit more about that.
Hmm.
So literally nothing matters about your movement. The only two things that matter about whether you get hit with I wrote up a script for air-to-air combat. So it actually could be 3, but the two main things that matter whether or not you get hit by a missile is your flares and your distance. So the rocket, once fired, no matter what it is, whether it's from a plane or from a SAM launcher on the ground, it's going to either hit you or it's not, which is based off some other things, which I can get to in a second. But if that missile has decided it's going to hit you for whatever reason, the only thing that you can do is either run away and it's going to run out of fuel and it's not going to be able to keep tracking you, or your flares make it miss. So depending on the type of tracking.
When we're in like a fight, and remember, like we would just keep turning around with the plane, just keep turning circles, and the missile wouldn't be able to like turn as tight.
Right. That
I think there might be some more things to it, but
that is like on the closer range of things. That's the closer range of things.
Right.
I think there's a
like
way
the most
that you can
bare
force
bone, it's
it.
flares and distance. Yeah.
Correct. So if it went way past and it doesn't have the fuel to then turn back around and get you, then that would be a problem. But most cases, it will still make it look like it's about to hit, but then I guarantee you would have seen situations where the missile looked like it was nowhere near you, but it would still hurt you. Have you seen those? I think that's them.
Yeah,
I think that is like the middle ground of it, trying to, like, it should have hit you, it's within range, and that's them still developing the game and trying to figure that stuff out. So that's how I've had it explained to me, is every single time you hit a flare, you are making the missile redo that calculation on whether it's going to hit you or not. So you're flipping a coin, basically. Even though it might not be a 50-50 chance, you're making it rethink whether or not it's hitting you. So if you're manually hitting your flares, or if it's being tracked by missiles, you'll be dumping your flares. And every single flare, you're making every missile that's coming after you rethink whether or not it's going to hit you. And if you're within range, then it either will or won't hit you. That's the way it was explained to me. Something else to take into account is the ECM and the type of tracking with the missile. So it gets pretty advanced, and there's things that can screw up, and the game can definitely get buggy, and it can get desyncy. But that's the name of the game there. So the ECM that your plane has, the amount of flares that you have, and the distance to what the type of tracking on the missile, the range of the missile, and your distance to that, it's all taken into account. So to make your plane as survivable as possible, you want distance, you want ECM, aka or stealth. ECM is actually different from stealth, but you want as far distance as possible. You want as much ECM as possible. You want as much stealth as possible. And what am I forgetting? I'm forgetting something else. I think that's actually it. But so you want to be as far away as possible. You want as much stealth as possible. And you want as much ECM as possible. Oh, and flares. So if you run out of flares, that's also a situation. So you want to make sure that it would almost be the same as fuel. So if you run out of flares and you think you're going to get engaged, just get out of there, because it's pretty likely that you're going to end up getting hit by something with the amount of like IR stuff that's out there. So air power, next test is going to be insane. It's going to be pretty significant because of what we're getting with the new specs. Not to mention, I think I just said test. Well, we don't even know if there's going to be another test. It could be full release, of which we're getting all of these specs at the same time, and it's going to be crazy people trying to figure out what they should and shouldn't play. Because we went from the initial test of you've only got these two specs. It was armored airborne for Russia, marine armored for US, and then something that is going to be a problem for us coming up with this next test is US got the ability to go marine airborne, which gave you very, very little option on the ground. Something that's I am certain is going to be a situation with the Special Forces deck. Like, what tanks are there's not going to be tanks in there. They're not going to have anything. It's probably going to be an empty, the way that they leave some of these tabs in the spec empty for some of these. It's probably not going to have anything in the vehicle tab. So it'll have some transports, I would imagine, and have some lighter stuff, but it's not going to have tanks. So yeah, you're going to be really good in the air, but what's going to actually stop things from rolling? What's going to stop vehicles on the ground? It's not going to be a whole lot. So if you end up doing...
You got to combine it for sure. Maybe with the striker team, you can make like some form of...
You'll have something, but then again, you're not heavy armor either. And
True.
I think that's why there's so many little topics and stuff. I'm trying to stay on track. There's so many little niche things that we can go in to all these different discussions, right? So I think this is why they're really not focusing on multiplayer, because there's going to be so many, autistic people like myself that are going to find all the best stuff. I'm confident. I'm as confident as I can be. I know exactly what will work in every situation. Whether I have the points to spend them, whether the other team knows that they're coming, whether I misclick something, or whether I just get bad RNG is another story. There's still some skill component, there's still RNG components to it. But when it comes down to it, that last test, proven Russia Airborne was the best. Like that was if you played Russia Airborne, like if you cloned me 9 times, so there was 10 of me total, 5 versus 5, 5 US players versus 5 Russian players, and they were evenly split, 3 on the ground, 2 in the air, or 3 in the air, 2 on the ground, whatever you want to call it. Majority of those games Russia, like significant majority of those games Russia. And it comes down to the air power, which is why I'm really, really hoping that they hit the air power on the Special Forces deck hard so that it evens it out. And it gets whittled down to, can you actually use that air power? And what can you actually do with that air power? So seed runs with Russia were significantly more they were faster. They had more ECM. They had more missiles. They were more survivable, and they were more
they were a bit more versatile too.
Versatile is the exact word I was looking for. Yeah,
because you could get the what was it, the 57?
I mean, every plane could do everything. What do you like? What's it seemed like every plane could do everything. And
I did like that about the Prowler though, because it was relatively cheap and could poop out 4 missiles each. But that was kind of the only plus side of it. It had nothing to defend itself with, right?
Correct. And it was slow.
It was slow, which is both good and bad, but if you get intercepted, that's not a good thing. Yeah. But yeah, there were more options for seed for sure with Russian planes. Pretty much anything could do anything.
That was going to bring up the point where next tests, going back to what I was saying, a few minutes ago, where it's going to be chaos. Mm-hmm. It is going to be chaos from not knowing what units to use to also the fact that you can now turn off the anti-overkill. So the reason why I didn't like the Prowler is because it was so slow and you couldn't anti-overkill. So if you were fighting a actually properly defended AA net, you were not getting through. Those seed missiles are not. It would have to be extremely lucky that the PIVADs, whether you were playing US versus US or the Beryusas if you're playing US versus Russia, if there was 2 in front, like they just were not. You were not getting that seed missile through. That was not happening. Hell, even in some cases,
just multiple to soak up.
Yeah.
At that point.
But now, that might end up being the meta because you just turn anti-overkill off. You've got 4 ready to go, and it's cheap, so you can get a bunch of them up there. So that's
I do hope there's still so the anti-overkill I both liked and disliked it. I disliked it in the way that air to air kind of sometimes didn't make sense. If you had 6 planes versus 1, the chance of that 1 plane surviving sure was low, but realistically it's like 0, right?
Yeah.
But because the 6 planes won't all fire at the same time, you could actually get out, like we have seen many times. Like a couple intros of like pretty much half my videos are just me dogfighting 6 planes. So in that way I didn't like it. If I have 6, I want to fire 6 missiles, But air to ground to like seeds, I do agree you should be able to turn it off, but maybe then there should also be more just better anti-seed or better like interception. Maybe just increase the range slightly. Otherwise any like PVADs or C-Rams will just not really be useful at all, or just make them non-radar or like something in that sense to kind of make it a bit more rock paper scissors.
Right.
Because otherwise seed will be quite overpowered if you can just yeet out all 8 and just definitely kill whatever.
Yeah, it definitely, that's what the difference maker was last test. When I actually had it nailed, there was not any nobody I played could stop me. And I actually have a clip that I was going to edit and post today where I was playing a full 5-stack they were playing the US. They had at least 3 full Patriot nets. And I went bop, bop, bop. Like, just sure, it took, 30 minutes to do this because I needed to rearm. But I used 2 Su-57s. I used, what was it? The TU whatever that had the fast cruise missiles for Russia. And then I think it was a MiG-35. Where is it? I'm pulling up my decks again. Okay. Nope, that wasn't it. Where's the other one? Oh, I don't have it saved anymore. Where's Russia? Okay, so it was 2 Su-57s full seed, all 4 seed missiles,
Mhm.
2 MiG-35s full seed missiles, and a Tu-22 M3, which had those fast cruise missiles.
Oh,
You put
yeah.
all 4 up. You send the Su-57s first, and you send them high, so that when they actually get into within range of the Patriots, they're not engaging the missiles yet. They're engaging the Su-57. So the Patriots would also help intercept missiles that were coming in.
Yeah.
But if they're focusing on the plane, they're not even looking at the missiles. They're just trying to kill the Su-57s. So Patriots go after the Su-57s. The only things that are left on the ground are the PivAds engaging what's coming in, which at that point would have been, because of the anti-overkill, a couple of missiles, not that big of a deal. But guess what's still on behind it? Patriots still have their radar on behind it. MiG-35s are coming in. If they don't engage the PivAds, because they were in front because of anti-overkill, if those PivAds were already getting engaged by one of the other missiles, then it was doing the Patriots behind it. So literally nothing would stop those missiles from going after the Patriots behind it. And as long as they got through, if the PivAds didn't kill the Su-57's missiles, those Patriots were dead. And guess what? Tu-22 in the background too, with those high-speed missiles. If even those seed missiles didn't get through, cruise missiles did get through, you take out AA net as you go. That was something I've been yet to talk about, because because with anti-overkill, it's probably going to work again. And that's going to be, like, once people actually understand that and get good at it, which I have a few clips of, it's unstoppable. Completely unstoppable. And then you can go in and you can bomb. Oh, that's also not including that if you just say, hey, buddy, do you want to send in a bomber as well? It literally won't get engaged, and you could just dumb bomb it as well too, because all of the seed missiles and all of the AA is going after the seed missiles and the planes that are shooting them. It's unstoppable. Completely. So, yeah. so hopefully the US gets something that we could put in the air, because something that won't be involved in any of that calculation is air to air, which I hope we're getting with the US Special Forces. But something that's also going to be a problem is the balance of it. So I think we can move on to another, because we're going to be, hell, this at least for me, when it comes to air-to-air combat and metas and stuff like that, I could be talking for hours as is. But I think let's just do this. Let's say, based off what we know so far, and if you have any questions, I might have seen it in the Patreon, or I might have had a clip or something, so just bring it up. Your ideal with a U.S. Special Forces deck, or U.S. Special Forces spec available, what would you set up? What would your wish list be if you wanted to set that up so that you could play with it?
You mean like what I would combine it with? Which other specialization?
Yep, all of it. And like what units would you want to use and like stuff like that.
Okay, so I really like infantry gameplay. I like stealth. I like, getting behind there, being more of a sabotaging force than a, armor head-to-head clash. So I would probably, first of all, combine it with, I mean, depending on how the striker one is, I would probably combine it with either the striker one or Marines. No, armor, sorry. So that I still have some armor that I can just defend with. But my main way that I would try to use it, or like to use it, is like doing airdrops. So I want stealth planes to cover the air, which is the F-22s. I want to be able to drop units behind with stealth helicopters, which they are also adding to the game. I want my vehicles to just be able to defend and support my infantry while my infantry is doing most of the work. So maybe actually combining it with airborne would be the most powerful in terms of infantry, but you would lack armor. But if there's some form of defensive unit you can put down at like the choke points and just have your infantry, javelins and ATGMs just everywhere in the sky high rises, that's what I would kind of go for. And I would just try to like use infantry to just get there, laze everything, use cruise missiles, use artillery and bombs, or like sneak behind them, cut off the supply lines. But also form a support role for teammates by using my stealth infantry if they need some clearing of a tree line, or if they need the enemy artillery or AA net to disappear. That's kind of how I would like to use it and combine it, I think.
Right.
Because I think if you combine it with armor too much, you're going to be forcing yourself to be buying armor, and that's a lot of points, right? And if you want to be able to support your airdrops
100%.
or a paradrops, you want the good air. So maybe combining it with airborne is the most OP in the air department, but also gives you all of the different transport possibilities you can imagine, from Osprey to Chinook to Comanche to Ghost Hawk, whatever you can think of.
Is it Dark Hawk or Ghost Hawk?
I think Ghost Hawk. I can check. I think it's a Ghost Hawk. Yeah.
Bacon, if you're
QH80
listening, we
Ghost
need
Hawk.
you. Is it Ghost Hawk?
Yeah. What is the other one you said? Dark Hawk?
I thought it was Dark Hawk.
No, that's a superhero appearing in American comic books.
Okay, never mind.
Yep.
All right, so Ghost Hawk. So we got the stealthy Black Hawk in case anybody's not tracking.
Yes, sir. That's how I would like to use it. But I am a bit biased because I just like infantry. I just like infantry clashes because I think it looks cool seeing ATGMs fly around buildings, and I like the reinforcing with supply lines aspect. I like the rest of my deck built to support the infantry, because then I feel like there's like a core to my deck, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So I like to always build it around the infantry, around the soldiers. So kind of that's how I would go around it, I think.
And that would be the one to do it with. That would be the one to do it with.
How about you? What would you combine it with, or how would you use it?
I think at first, I'm probably going to use it as a, well, kind of like what I was just explaining there. This is why it was at the top of my brain. I'm going to use it as a seed deck, and I think I would want to use it with the Striker Brigade, because you get the F-16s and the A-10 with Strikers. F-16s for the Striker Brigade, there's one that's ASF, there's one that is dedicated seed, and there's one that's air to ground, specifically. So, dedicated seed with the F-16s, potentially, hopefully, fingers crossed, some seed with the Raptor, or hopefully F-35, something. And I basically mimic what I just was explaining with Russia before, between the F-16s and the Su-57, or sorry, between the F-16s and the Raptors and the Su-57s and the MiG-35s that I was explaining before. Now, the Tu-22 would most likely, with its cruise missiles, most likely be replaced with something that's air to ground, whether that be the Nighthawk. They did show off the Nighthawk as well for Special Forces, or it be the air to ground F-16, or the dream. Well, actually, no, correction. The actual dream would be getting an AC-130 to work. But the ideal setup would be, the most common setup would probably be A-10. So clean sweep AA, or at least keep them distracted long enough for A-10 to get in there and burn things that are on the ground. Anything that's there. And when it comes to the ground gameplay, I really want to see what a combined arms setup would be for the Strikers, as well as the, I think it was the Booker. I think the Strikers are getting the Booker. Is that what they said?
I think so, yeah.
And that's got the 50 millimeter. The Booker has the 50 millimeter. Strikers have a lot of 30 millimeters and lots and lots of javelins. Lots and lots of javelins. So the Strikers are going to be infantry tab. The ICVs with the javelins are going to be infantry tab, and APS, by the way, too. Little bit of vehicle tab with the Bookers, but that's okay. Just dedicate the Bookers to it. And I mean, you know me, I'm probably not going to use a single infantry unit other than like I would assume there's going to be some really dope recon with special forces. So like really dope recon, get eyes out on that end of things. But I'm probably going to stay mobile. Yeah, have a couple of like a little pushing force, or kind of like a more of like a I don't know, like a little probing striking force of Strikers. Figure out where the AA nets are, figure out where some particularly maybe undefended flanks or lightly defended flanks are, take out the AA, hit the ground, and then move in fast with Strikers. And I think that's going to be my ideal setup. So the two newest specs, going to try and combine those. And beyond that, I guess it would be interesting to see what it would do with a Marine deck. because
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
get the extra air, and even though it's limited, you still get a couple of FEPs with APS.
True. That might be all you need, to be honest. You don't need to have
Right.
a spearhead armored deck, anyways.
So just massive FU air tab,
Yeah.
and you got a little something to work with on the ground, and infantry because of this Marines. So you get extra infantry tab to be able to mess around with whatever you've got going on over there. Right. So we'll have to wait and see. Had a lot of interesting stuff pop up. It seems like their infantry tab is going to be really expensive. So you were on point there.
Yeah.
You were on point
Oh,
there.
that brings me to a topic we might have to discuss at some point. But they're doing a big overhaul of like cost as well of units, especially infantry. I think that was a big suggestion from many people.
Wait, it's definitely a suggestion, but you said they are doing it?
I heard, I mean, I think, I don't want to confirm it, but they are definitely going to be working on like the economy of the game, because when your unit is gone, like disappeared after a tense fight, it still is allocating part of your income until that unit respawns fully. And
Yeah.
if your infantry is very expensive and you're playing Spec Ops, which mainly focus on infantry, you might be able to buy like 3 seals. I'm exaggerating now, but so I think maybe there also needs to be like a cost kind of thing for these specializations. So if you have infantry specializations, the cost of the infantry maybe is less, or when it dies, it only allocates like 50% of the initial cost or something like that per income. But I remember in this beta, it was very, very costly to be losing units to take a long time to respawn, because that entire time you're not getting the income that you would normally get.
100%. That's the float points
Yeah.
topic. I put up a video about that the other day. Infantry are not only the slowest and least effective units in the game, literally, because they're dudes with guns walking on the ground compared to tanks and planes and helicopters and stuff, but also with the way that the game works,
That's the main thing.
them being slow to the fight is costing you points to be spent elsewhere. So using a ton of infantry is losing you the game. Or potentially, so maybe not the right word there, because you could have won anyway, but it is limiting your capabilities significantly if those infantry are not in a constant fight. I mean, this is the same thing for anything. It's just that they were slower at it. So like spending all your points on a front line of infantry for them to be sitting there and only actually be shooting, once every several minutes or whatever is slowing the game down significantly, especially since the maps are so big. So I hope they do. I think we brought this up. Did we bring this up last week? I forget if we brought this up last week. My suggestion would be literally cut all of the points, the cost of all infantry, in half, and just see what that does. Genuinely would want to see what that does. Do people start using more?
Make a drastic big change. I think it would be that would be a good one just to try out. Because one thing, okay, so here's a comment that I always got from on my videos from my part of the community is, it feels like you never have a moment where you have a lot of units on the field because of the reduction in your income, right? I personally just want to have like a shit ton of units on the field, like the last 10 minutes, and just queue move just because it looks cool.
Can
so
I
maybe
cut you
with
off?
some economy changes.
Yeah, can I cut you off?
Yeah. Sure.
So if that finish that thought, but it's like, I think there's a very clear answer to this, and I think the reason is World of Conflict. You never had too many units in World of Conflict, and that is one of the major inspirations, but it could be like a method to the madness kind of thing. Maybe they thought that was what part of the magic was for World of Conflict, and it definitely is in some cases, because this isn't Hearts of Iron. It's kind of its own thing. And then same thing with Wargame. If you kept everything alive, it's just like, what are you doing? What's this? Just so much. There's just icons. You're going back to that mobile game discussion we did last week, or we had last week. Yet you're just moving boxes around on the screen. So I think that's okay. I think not having too many units is completely okay, and it lets you really focus and do what these units in this game are capable of doing, which are insane plays on their own. Every single plane has all these different capabilities, all this insane functionality, every single real built-up expensive vehicle or tank. Exact same thing. All this different functionality, all this different use. And then it makes you really prioritize what is the, what's the right word here? What is the not the meaning.
I got nothing.
No, I know. It's like what actually matters in quote unquote modern warfare, which is you don't have
Effectiveness,
unlimited
like how you
ammo.
use it.
Yeah, like so it's like logistics. It's setting up your actual line. So every single person, if you're playing the game effectively, you should have a bit of recon. You should have a holding force, which could be infantry, but not too much. You should have a pushing force. You should have a bit of a QRF. Could be some helicopters. Could be some faster vehicles. You should have something in the air, whether it be eyes, air to air, or air to ground. And you should have logistics as well as AA. I forgot about the AA. One of the most important things, AA, of course. You should be able to control and understand all of that on each of your own front, because that's like what the game is. Now it immediately goes against what I was saying a second ago with what's it called? With World in Conflict. But they got to be different in some places. You got to try out other things. And since World in Conflict, we've had War Game, and you were able to do all this stuff with War Game, and it worked. So they're trying to do a bit of both worlds here. I think that's what they're trying to do. So not too many units where you get things out of hand, because people are having micro difficulty already as it is. And unit identification doesn't get too crazy, even though there's thousands of whatever or hundreds of units in this game already. And just focus on what actually matters. I think that's fine when it comes to the amount. You want to move on here a little bit and we go switch sides and see what let's put it this way. Have you seen the Motosuoki trailer for Russia?
Oh man, isn't that a while ago?
While ago. I think that was like 2022, I want to guess.
Yeah, I remember that one. I'll pull it up here though.
I'm going to actually do the same. I should have had that up already.
Okay.
So
you have a question about that for me?
What do you think that's going to add? And then we're going to talk about the last one too. Because there's going to be 5 specs. Okay, so there's going to be 5 specs.
I need you to wait. There's a Sport Life Fresh Peppermint ad right now. Okay.
Gotcha.
All right, got it. Ooh, what is it going to add? I mean, lots of BMPs, T-72s, infantry. Quite a basic, I think, roster that it's going to add to the game.
Remember the last test? What was in the air in the first test for Russia? That was a pretty significant.
Ooh, man, I don't even remember that one.
Frogfoot.
Oh shit, yeah, true.
So those things, they had seed missiles, they had ATGMs, they had rockets, they were
jammers,
tanky.
Everything.
They had the gun.
Grads will be.
Oh yeah. So that Motosuoki deck, bro.
I mean, that's honestly the Motosuoki is gonna feel, if you combine that with armored, it's gonna feel like the most wargamey deck you can build. I think.
You'll have nothing in the air.
You'll have the Kurnas, you'll have the Chrysanthemas, you have all the BMPs, probably some BMDs as well, Grads, SU-25s. Yeah, I think it'll be fine. BTRs most likely.
Yeah, I'm curious how many of those have APS. So you can see some of those BMP3s have the turrets that look like Kurgnets. I don't know if they are Kurgnets. Actually, I'm looking at one right now and I'm pretty confident is Kurgnets. So I'm wondering if that's got to have APS. And so if you do end up tag teaming it with also, before we go too far, there's a whole trailer out there. We're pretty sure we know what's coming with Motosuoki, but this is 3 years ago. They could have changed this up significantly. So who knows?
That's a while ago.
Yeah. So who knows what specifically is coming with this deck? I think it would. Who knows if this is even coming anymore? Who knows if they're going to add the Motosuoki the way it is? Maybe they're going to call it something else. But these units are for sure coming to the game. These BMP3s and these different BMP2s and stuff like that. So I'm going to be talking about it as a generalization of like these units and whether this is Motosuoki or whether it's or not. The addition of these units and their capabilities is going to add something pretty crazy to Russian ground, which was one of my favorite things to do. Just T-15s everywhere.
Yeah, true.
And having something that's even cheaper with APS is going to be pretty cool. Having those other BMP3s out there, having potentially even something that could make a T15 push even worse is, what if you just suicide a bunch of BMP2s like old school war game tactics?
Soak it up, yeah.
Yeah, and then, oh, you're out of ammo? Like, oh yeah, you might have killed our BMP2s, but guess what? You're completely out of ammo. Here's some T15s for you. Like, yeah, you're just fucked. Absolutely fucked. Not to mention some more AA. Could be some extra S300s back there now, S400s. Who knows if they're gonna add like the S500?
That reminds me of something random. I don't know if it's now off topic, but when you say at the back, okay, that kind of sounds weird. But when you spawn like an S300, this kind of brings me to the economy. Maybe I don't know if you want to keep that to another podcast.
Oh, we got plenty. I mean, we got a couple months here, so we can.
Yeah,
But what
we'll add it
what
to
do you
the
think
next one. I think it's a big topic for later.
the economy just in general?
Yeah, because like it used to be just in this beta, it was better to just like spawn in a ground-based cruise missile launcher that the Russians had and just sell it. Because
Absolutely.
you would get it back really, really quickly.
Not really, really quickly, but it was you keeping
It
it on
felt
the
like it
map
was
was
better.
stupid. Definitely was
Yeah,
stupid.
it felt like it was better to do that than to like spawn in supplies, get it there, unload, get it to resupply, you know?
Absolutely was. Like, absolutely was better to just get it off of there because of, you are right, because of the economy.
Yeah.
So,
And there's no need to like then move it around, micro it,
yeah.
be afraid of getting countered and all
Same
that.
thing with the attackums. Same thing with the attackums and the PRSMs on the Russia, the US side too. So yeah, that could practically be its own thing. There's so many little niche things, and based off of what we saw last test and what the devs are starting to understand based off player tendencies and things like that, maybe they make a bunch of changes to it this coming test. So definitely,
we'll see about that.
Definitely room for not only improvements but just changes. So if they see something, like, who knows what they're gonna do? Like, if they see something that they don't necessarily like, they're gonna change it. Whether it's for the good or the bad or what, who knows? But it could end up being pretty drastic. Like for instance, the game mode. Just the general maps in the game mode changed so much from first test to second test. It changed up a lot. So we'll see what they end up wanting to go through. But have you seen the icons? So at the start of that video, there should be, wait, if you saw the Motostroke, it's something different. If you go to the beginning of the US Striker, I'll just send this to you on Discord. If you go to, well, just check out that picture there.
Okay, yeah.
So you see at the top, you see what am I saying? US Marine, US Armored, US Airborne, Striker Brigade, and again, US Special Forces. Russia, we've got Marine, Armored, Airborne. Now, the BMP with the flag, nobody knows what that is. But the crossed AKs is Motostroke.
Yeah, that's Motostroke.
That's Motostroke. That's confirmed. That's like, you've got the icons and stuff like that. In fact, if I'm gonna use this recording, I have it up on screen.
Which one is the coastal one? That's the far left one. Yeah, that's the far left one.
That's the anchor, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Army Infantry Motorized Rifle Patch. It's the wreath, if you want to call it. Is that what you call that? Is that a wreath? I don't know. Whatever that.
Yeah, wreath, yeah.
And then the crossed AKs. That's Motostroke. Yeah. So what the hell is the fifth one? What the hell is that?
Maybe a mechanized one somehow?
But so motorized? But when we go and we look at motorized, here's the other thing too. Their mechanized is Motostroke. Correction. Their motorized is the motorized infantry, Motostroke. But look at all those BMPs. So my wargame brain is thinking BTRs, things on wheels, BRDMs and BTRs from wargame. But that's what they're looking at. And of course, there's some BTRs in there. But then what's left? And I have something that I'm dedicated to in my brain, but I want to hear what you think first. So what do you think, keeping in mind the history of wargame and the units that are left over, what do you think that fifth spec could be for Russia?
Man, I mean, maybe it's like a kind of a Swiss knife of whatever APC you can think of in Russia right now. Because I mean, it seems to focus on mechanized, but honestly, I don't even know what's the flag for.
I
What's the
have no idea.
flag?
I have not. So I have a stupid idea.
I don't know.
I have a
I think
dumb idea.
I would just expect a lot of BMPs, maybe some like lower end tanks, kind of like a
Yeah.
reserve kind of
Oh,
specializations. I don't know.
that's what I'm thinking too.
Maybe it's
I
a
think it's
reserve.
gonna
Yeah.
be some kind of like conscript reserve, aka support. So I
Yeah.
think it's going to be our Russia support deck because anybody that's played Wargame, you know, those support decks were dog shit for anything that wasn't
True.
actual support tab. They had BMP ones, they had reservist infantry that were bullshit, that were just not good. Very few people use this to any effect on for any kind of frontline fighting. But guess what? They had badass AA and they had badass artillery, which Russia's really good at. They have well, you know, up for debate on the AA part with a lot of the stuff that we're seeing in Ukraine. But artillery though, they got some crazy stuff. So I think when you take into account what's left and when you take into account the way that they're structuring this game, this is a way better format for support, for having like uniquely tuned specializations where you have to choose two. So having one that has super cheap infantry, potentially some really good recon, definitely some really good logistics, some support, good AA, good artillery. That would work great. That fits in with any deck. That could genuinely be some really good support. And with the BMP ones being, you know, tracked, this is something else stupid. You know, armored deck has no logistics. There's no trucks for the armored deck, the armored spec for Russia. You tag team this up, you have the bread and butter of a Russian ground force of just the spam units of the armor, the spam units of the infantry fighting vehicles, spam units of infantry, along with heavy artillery, proper AA, and of course heavy tanks and heavy IFVs when you do want to push those. So I think that is going to be a support deck with reserve units. And the reason the flag is there is because it's like the old Soviet I don't know, red waved kind of deal where that's like
Maybe,
like conscripts kind of a deal. So
that might be what they're going for with it.
I think that's what they're gonna do. I think they're gonna have lots of AA, lots of artillery, and cheap quote unquote throwaway units for that. And we'll see what pops up. I don't think it's gonna have much in the air. I think it's gonna have a big time support tab, but kind of sucks that we don't see that for the US. It'd be nice to have that. Maybe the strikers are gonna kind of be a bit of that. Maybe. Presumably. But I'm not quite sure where the other airborne stuff would fit. It still really throws me off that the US airborne didn't have a lot of this stuff. It's really weird. And we're gonna have to see what that kind of meta goes into it. But anyway, we're going off topic there a little bit with the Russia side of things. So having that in mind, so we've got Motostroky, it's got at the right there with all of their BMPs. And have you seen the pictures of like the actual like almost like a parade setup where you could see all the units? For
yeah.
Motostroky, you have? Okay.
I think I have it. Yeah, I have it here.
I'll refresh you there. That's obviously not too much of a high quality one. Oh, bro, I completely forgot. Boomerang.
Oh, damn.
We have another heavy sorta T-15-ish family vehicle that's probably going to pop up with Motostroky. So we've got the Kurgnets, we've got the T-15, and we've got the Boomerang. So if you go Motostroky armored, just, oh my god. It's just on the ground, dude, the ground, which is really like the primary focus of like why I pick what I picked for US when we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
And I don't think I even mentioned this part. Oh no, I did mention the A10. Having a deck that I can pick when I think that we're going to be fighting a lot of Russian ground that has just all of the Mavericks everywhere at once. So like, I think the math comes out to 6 Mavericks. As long as we're talking War Thunder stuff here, which I think that would be realistic for the game, if not real life, for the payloads on the payload side of things. The air to ground F-16, whatever that might end up being, I could see having 6 Mavericks. The A-10 I could see having 6 along with some rockets and of course the gun. And that's just Striker Brigade. So are we going to have up to 4 like we've seen with the other multi-role or ground attack planes? So if that's the case, then that means 8. So 8, are we going to be actually seeing that many Maverick capable planes in an air tab that we can actually field them? So if it goes Striker Airborne, who knows what the F-35 is going to have, or the Raptor is going to have, the F-35 and the Spooky and whatnot. But I think we're going to be seeing some really crazy changes when it comes to metas and what people are complaining about, because it goes back to anti-overkill. Before, those Maverick planes, whether they be the F-18 or whether they be the Harriers, were fantastic at killing T-15s. Just so few people even knew what a strafe run was or how to properly clear the air so that your plane could get through It was very rare. I actually just got in an argument with somebody in the comments the other day because they thought I was insane that you could even kill T-15s from the air. They were like, it was something along the lines of like, oh yeah, how would you even get a plane in there with all the AA craziness? And it's like, this dude literally doesn't know what seed is. He doesn't. I don't think he understands. You know you can kill their AA guys. So anti-overkill is going to be crazy, or the ability to toggle anti-overkill is going to be crazy from a seed run perspective. But then even past that, ATGMs from the sky against all these different tanks, I think it's going to be pretty crazy.
With the multi-targeting would be insane in that case.
Well, I don't know if with anti-overkill, if it would be multi-targeting. They probably just fucking full-on dirtball 6. It would be as fast as it could shoot, really. And then it depends on if it can ripple. So if they end up putting something different, if they end up doing something different with the EX can ripple. Raptor's probably going to be able to ripple. We'll see if these F-16s can ripple. But two Mavericks will kill heaviest vehicle in the game. You shoot it from the back, it'll take 1. So if you really clear out their AA and you do a really good job, or if they're just being dumb and you hit them from the back, that's 6 dead T-15s. 6. At least 3.
6?
At least 3. How many times? This was the other thing too. Somebody was saying like, what was the availability of the T-15? You could have at least 10. I was just like, no, you literally could. The most you could have was 7. So you cannot have more than 7. And that was if you torched your tab. If you absolutely torched your infantry tab. So most of the time it was 6. And if you would really only see 6 if you were left alone. Like if you were having a fantastic game, you would see 6. Most of the time, 3. You're dealing with 3. So 3 T-15s, most situations, even playing ground, that's 1. 1 F-16 with 6 Mavericks gets through. All gone. No longer a problem. So we're talking about a significantly different playing game with these new specs that are coming in. Significantly. And I think, obviously, because we're running out of time here, this is going to be a topic for another day. But hell, the rock, paper, scissors of like, oh, if you use this, but then you use that, and then you use that kind of a thing is going to be thrown out the window. Nobody has played the Striker Brigade. Nobody has played.
True. It's going to be a big phase of adjusting and kind of trying to find the new balance and things, the new counters, the new meta. I don't want to say meta, but like the new rock, paper, scissors. Maybe there's a sledgehammer now as well. I don't know.
I'll say meta. I think it's going to be in the air. I think the game is going to be the air, and it comes down to whether or not you understand how to fight in the air and you understand how to seed run.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be sweeps of people that understand that and then don't understand that because the game's still won on the ground. You still need to go and get those points if you want to win. And then it comes down to the recon game. Can they actually see you on those points so that they can actually hit you? All I know is that I'm excited. I'm excited for the capabilities of all these decks and things like that. But
yeah.
Real quick wrap up though, based off what we talked about for Russia, what do you think you'll want to use first? I'll put mine out there. Definitely ground, whether it be the reserves and armored or the Motostrokey and armored. Definitely want to see what that looks like on the ground. But
I want to see a horde of BMPs and BMDs
exactly
rolling forward.
Yeah, dude, 100%.
I'll probably kind of do the same. Yeah, infantry, mechanized infantry, and armored. And just see how much I can put on the field and just yeet forward.
If I could put Soviet flags on these and just like what's that national anthem? The just fucking it. Or that, either that or
we just do Katusha.
Yeah. Or yeah, or Katusha, something like that. Just some heavy Russian metal or something like that. Just that's gonna happen.
That'll be cool.
Dude, I'm excited. So we should be seeing that Friday. You think we should do are you busy on Friday? I was gonna say we should probably do some kind of like a live
be okay
thing
on Friday, actually. I'm not quite sure. For now, it's just usual work. But
our schedules are a little weird.
Time in the evening.
Yeah, our schedules are a little weird. It'd be cool to add a live element into this to get some other people discussing some stuff. So maybe we'll figure out something like that. But any of you guys listening to this point, thank you for being here. If you guys got any feedback for us, let us know. This is, of course, going to be on Bolt's channel. For now, we're going to be swapping. So the first episode where we talked about our history of gaming and like what got us here. For anybody that thinks I'm just a Tarkov person, or anybody that thinks Bolt's just a war game or just a War-No person, couldn't be more wrong. We both play pretty much. We practically played everything. So talked about that last episode. You can check that out over on my channel, which is, as of now, the Autistic Armchair General. That's my second. It's too fitting. And then, of course, we got Bolt. This is your main channel here. So we're going to keep swapping, and we'll figure out whatever our topic is going to be for next week. That's going to be back over on my channel. And if you're here, you probably already know about NoiceGuy, but who knows what's going on with Tarkov? Who could care less?
Who knows?
Could care less. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But thank you guys for hanging out. Any closing thoughts there, Bolt?
Lots to look forward to, and it's only a couple months away, so I'm excited.
All right, that was the debrief, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Hope you enjoyed. Click all the buttons on the screen. Give this man some support. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. Hope you have a nice day. See you guys.